Hi, I'm Hjeron, and I'm the lead sound architect and vocalist in the Wyrding Way. So, the Wyrding Way was created out of my ritual theater project, Mythmaker. So, originally, I was a musician in a progressive rock band back in the 90s around Tool, Rage Against the Machine, White Zombie, Dead Can Dance kind of music scenario. And out of that, there were grandiose ideas of Pink Floyd The Wall and Lord of the Rings and other aspects. So I created my ritual theater project, Mythmaker, based on ancient Northern European ritual mythology and practices. And after years of touring that theater company, I realized we needed to go back to the roots and make it a musical project. And so the Weirding Way was born, and it's essentially the rebirth of Mythmaker into a full 7 to 9 piece theatrical ritual music band that then Mythmaker joins in with to create up to 30 some odd people in a giant theatrical performance. Yes, performing music has always been a dream of mine. Ever since I was a little kid, as far as I can remember, I've always wanted to sing and make music and perform and entertain and just channel sound and song. So it's always been a part of my makeup and who I am. Yeah, I mean, growing up, some of my earliest influences were Pink Floyd. I got a Dark Side of the Moon 8-track tape as my first music that I ever owned myself. So, yeah, the first book I was ever read was The Hobbit, and the first music I ever had was Dark Side of the Moon. So, I always say it's not surprising I ended up how I am. Then later on in life, I was into a lot of the late 80s metal scene with Iron Maiden and Metallica and a lot of other underground bands. And then in the 90s, when I started playing music myself, a lot of my influences really came through at that point, which were a lot more Tool, Rage Against the Machine. Nine Inch Nails was a huge influence. Trent Reznor and the way that he sculpted music and sound theatrically is a massive influence. So Maynard from Tool and Trent Reznor are probably two of my largest influences. And then some of the classics like The Doors and Led Zeppelin in just the way they were progressive with music and story and ceremony in the music that they were bringing to the masses. I felt really paved the way for a lot of what's going on now in both the music and pagan music scenes. That's a really good question. I love a lot of the modern neo pagan movement and archaic pagan music, neo folk movement. I'm lucky enough to be acquaintances and friends with a lot of the people in that movement in Europe as well. I feel like here on the west coast of Canada, with the Weirding Way and Mythmaker, we've been kind of pioneering the North American aspect of that. But bands like Wardruna, Einar, and Lindy have been doing amazing, amazing work. Hylung and yeah, Kai and Maria and Chris are all doing phenomenal work and really bringing the movement forward on a regular basis. Them and a lot of the other, early pagan neo-folk movement and reclaiming movement that was kind of the roots even before that with Hednan Garna and Garmarna and Valraven, which was part of the roots of Heilung. And yeah, so a lot of those bands in the movement, Bjork, Ivoire, really phenomenal Northern European musicians bringing back the old sounds and creative Northern European aspects. So we kind of merge a little bit of that with some more modern psychedelic progressive rock and dance between the two. My earliest inspiration that brought forth the performance art aspect and the expression aspect of the band was actually being brought into and initiated into a traditional Scottish witchcraft coven. And so I learned as a theater director, I've never gone to theater school. All of my theatrical training was through embodiment of deities through the ancient mythologies and ancient, you know, ancestor beings. And so that's in the coven that I was in. We worked a lot with that and a lot with embodying the spirits. And that's where the theatrical aspect came through in a lot of the magic and ritual theater. And then things like Pink Floyd The Wall. I mean, Pink Floyd is a huge influence. I love Pink Floyd. I love The Doors. I love Led Zeppelin and a lot of theatrics of what they would bring to the stage. A lot of the stage performance of Nine Inch Nails and, and a lot of these bands that really put their all into embodying the music on stage and not just, reciting the music, but living it and feeling it flow through. So merging that with theatrical training in school, and so merging that with ritual embodiment and just feeling, the music flow through and embodying that the best we can to have the audience share in that ritual, to share in that feeling. Um, yes, my spiritual path is definitely inseparable from my musical path. Most of the music that's written in the Weirding Way and most of the music that I write is inspired by cathartic, transcendental experiences, medicine experiences, and ritual practice. My personal practice, as I mentioned before, when I was in my teens, I was very blessed to be initiated into a traditional Scottish witchcraft coven. From there, I did a lot of study of Toltec magic and First Nations magic. I was born on the edge of the First Nations Reserve and grew up and went to the First Nations school here in Canada. And so I had a lot of experience with that in just a casual friendship sort of way. And then moving out west into the depths of the Valhallas and the depths of the mountains here in Canada, I got more involved in the Native American church and the peyote path and went on pilgrimages down to Mexico on medicine journeys and studied at the temples. And then also in the northern traditions, working with some of the Norse vulvas and the holders of those teachings has been a lot of my paths. So Indigenous European and Indigenous North American paths are a lot of my influences, and the journeys of healing and weaving that we have in those paths is a huge influence on the Weirding Way's music. I love our live show. Some musicians really prefer the studio and just like making music in the studio and playing in their studio or around the fire. I love that aspect of music. And for me, it all comes together with the live show. When we're live and I've got the mead horn and we start with the traditional blut ceremony and, we invoke things to come through and be there to help us and to help the audience, the actual passion and fire and ritual of our live performance and our interaction with the audience and with the Vitar, the spirits, the ancestors there is really the culmination. Um, yeah, Drea is an old friend. We've worked together several times. To be honest, she was also one of the early potential female vocalists for the Weirding Way. We collaborated a bunch here in the Valhallas, where I'm back now. And so, yeah, she's a really good friend, and we've collaborated on a couple of tracks that are sitting in the archives. So, between past tracks and future potentials, I would love to collaborate with her more, and we chat fairly regularly. And maybe even someday we'll do a live performance together, which has always been something we've mildly chatted about. So, yeah, she's a good old friend, and we look forward to working together more in the future. Yes, I'm always into the evolving of the Weirding Way, the weaving of the web of what we can bring forth in ceremony, ritual, and intention with music and performance art. So I'm always looking to collaborate with both musicians, artists, dancers, performers. And it's part of the community that I really like is the collaborative aspect of our community. Recently, Einar's been working with Ivoire and several other Northern European performance artists and musical artists. And I feel the same here in North America. The more of the intentional pagan artists that can come together and collaborate and do a guest spot on each other's tracks, I'm super open to collaborating both with other people's musics and with the Weirding Way. There's also a bunch of remixes in the works with some of the local electronic artists that have similar intentions and similar visions of divinity and ceremony. So look forward to the Weirding Way remix album as well. But yeah, lots of collaborations in the works, and I'm open to more, so feel free to reach out. That's an interesting hot topic. Um, for me personally, I found it an opportunity and a scenario to reach back to my roots, to head back to the Valhallas, get in nature, leave the city and the large conglomerations of people, to dive back into the mountains to finish up our album and work more on the depths of the album in balance with nature and in tune with nature here in the mountains. I feel like it's an unprecedented scenario that none of us have seen in our lives, and the best thing that we can do is connect with nature and the natural balance and connect with tribe and community in a real way where we really find alliance with each other and work together in a good, real way. So, yeah, I'm not sure what it has to unfold for us in the next cycles of time. I know that things are going to be different. Things are different right now. And we're here in the mountains, living in the Valhallas, about to get a wolf and dive back into nature and deeper into music and medicine and community. So, you know, let it be an opportunity. Every scenario is an opportunity. So let's find the opportunity in this anomaly, in this challenge. And the more of us that come together and have each other's back and be tribe like the old days, the more I think we're going to get through this in a really solid, clear way and maybe come out somewhere better on the other side. So that's a bit of my view on it. Well, a lot of plans for both the Weirding Way and I think most people in the world have just been turned upside down. So our immediate plans have all been put on pause, and I've moved from the city deep into the mountains to, as I said, work on the album and go deeper into music, magic, and ceremony. The vision and the dream has always been to do a European tour and go back to our ancestry and our roots in Europe and do some of the festivals like Castlefest and Midgardsblut and other neo pagan reclaiming festivals in Northern Europe and different parts of Europe. Burning Man is always a large part of my reality. We run a giant flaming dragon Viking ship stage and bus at Burning Man and have goals of being one of the largest live music and live world music stages at Burning Man, bringing a lot of the Northern European music scenario to that cultural event has been a vision of ours that we were working on this year that's been put on pause. Large pagan heathen community at Burning Man and more interaction with the European music scene is on the path and the vision for the Weirding Way. And at this time, it's going to be more music around the fire and more delving into unplugged roots of traditional music here. We would love to perform in Vegas. Basically, anywhere where we're received for what we bring on the levels of depth and ceremony and performance art mixed with music, magic, and all the other things. If we're brought to be who we are and do what we do, then we'll come when we're called. It's kind of a ceremonial situation. I've always come when called, if the medicine is needed, if the ceremony and the music are called and needed. So if we're respected for what we bring, we'll bring it. We're definitely not a bar band, and we're definitely not a pop concert band. We're a mystical ritual experience with full music and performance art. So if that's what people call for, that's what we'll bring. I definitely prefer outdoor performances. I like festival performances, forest, desert, ocean. We're a pagan band. We like to play under the canopy of the stars. We like to bring out our fire. We like to do things that can't really be contained in buildings. It takes a lot of permits or paring down our show quite a bit to play indoors. We can and we do, and the response has been really beautiful. People say that they like our indoor shows because they get to really pay attention to the musical aspect because we bring so many facets to a live show. But I prefer outside forested scenarios where we can blow the roof off because there is no roof. So giant flaming dragons and fire and sound and ritual and as many people as we can fit in the dance performance and the ritual performance, the better. So definitely out in the elements under the sky is where we prefer.
Awesome. Sounds cool. So, what is your ideal goal with your group? A full length album in the works? Where do you want to see the band and yourself in a few years?
The visions and the goals for the Weirding Way and Mythmaker as well are endless and limitless. I'm following the weave. The Norns weave the web, and I follow the thread. We're seeing where the web weaves, and that's where we'll be led. Right now, it's working on the full album. Then there's always video and music projects. Our live performances and live rituals are always expanding. I also love storytelling and film, so film work and moving into full movie productions where the Weirding Way will be doing the soundtracks and doing interactive aspects. I've got scripts and stories written and close to 100 songs ready to come into production. So there's lots in the works, there's lots of potentials. It's a matter of collaboration, time, resources, and getting the work done. So once again, in this whole unfolding of the world, it's placed us deep in the Valhalla Mountains in a cabin with my recording studios. So some of those things may be accelerating over the next little while. And yeah, we look forward to bringing a whole level of giant theatrical stage show production, something in the way of Lord of the Rings, Vikings, Pink Floyd The Wall, hitting the stage with a giant ritual, ceremonial, theatrical production with fire and magic, and bringing that into the realm of film and storytelling. To all the people weaving in the heathen pagan reclaiming movement of both music and art and intention and ceremony, for those networking the community like you do here in RavenzCraft Arts, for those paving the way and cutting through the bush and reclaiming like Einar and Lindy with Wardruna, and Kai and Maria and Chris with Heilung, with just the people that have been digging and doing the work. Thank you. It's a large movement, and there's a lot of us realizing our roots have power, our ancient tales, our ancient ancestors, and the ways they perceived the world and wove with the unknown was a powerful thing, and it can really bring community together, can bring personal power to people, and can bring balance with nature again. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, and thank you all for for listening and weaving and awakening to those old ways again, and that we come together and do them in a new way that works for all of life, so that balance can be brought back to our cycles and our scenarios. That's all we're doing here in the Wyrding Way and in Mythmaker, is trying to reconnect to our roots, our cultural community power, and bring balance so that we can live harmoniously with nature, and then our children can walk into the future and we can hand them good things and good ways to perceive the world and dance in the world. So thank you to all the artists working so hard to make that happen. It's a challenge, and you see us on the stage sometimes or dancing or doing the things, and it looks like the moment of the dream, and that dream is a lot of work, and it takes a long, hard path to get there. So thank you for those that have walked that path and gotten to those places, and those still walking. This is Hjeron of the Wyrding Way and Mythmaker. Thank you very much.